Hello and welcome to Inside the Video Store. It's the Halloween special. The Halloween special. Isn't that exciting? So I thought, well, what can I do for a Halloween special? We could maybe talk about the greatest horror films of all time, but that'd be really boring because you probably know more about the greatest horror films of all time than I do, so that's a bad idea. So I thought, well, we're in a video store. What do people come into the video store for? Well, recommendations maybe, especially this time of year. Good horror films. So maybe we could talk about some good horror films that maybe don't get the publicity that they perhaps should do. So I thought, yeah, let's do that. So how should we do it? I thought we'd do 100. Let's do 100 great horror movies. You know? What could go wrong? Obviously, I don't want to be here all day, and neither do you. So I'm gonna go for around about an hour. Do you reckon that's possible? Well, we'll soon see, won't we? It's 4 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Let's be done by 5, and then you can all go home and have your tea. That seems fair enough to me. So we got coffee, we got Freddie, we got Chucky. I think we're all set. So yeah, none of the usual features of today, except the brand new releases. We have to cover the brand new releases, otherwise we'll just fall behind. We got Vinegar Syndrome. Chucky's leaning on them there. Vinegar Syndrome releases are in. What's in the box? But no, we're going to save that till next week. Save that till next week. Then we'll have a massive What's in the Box special. We'll have the biggest boutique release week of the month. So we'll have those. We'll have the Vinegar Syndrome. We'll have the Melusine. We should have Terrorvision by then. And I'm hoping to have a few other bits and bobs like Synapse and things like that. So next week I'm going to do a big What's in the Box special, where hopefully it should be the perfect storm of arrivals, and we can look at all those next week. So first things first, let's get to the new releases. Now I hope I'm standing for this, so you know, commitment. Hopefully everything is fine. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Hopefully this big, great microphone isn't too annoying. But anyway, let's have a look at this. So, the release of the month. Longlegs, Blu-ray, out on loan. Longlegs, Blu-ray, out on loan. Longlegs DVD, out on loan. Longlegs DVD, out on loan. It's crazy. The number of people I've had asking for this film inside the last couple of weeks has been nuts. And, well, they didn't disappoint me on the first day. First day, they all waiting for it like rabid animals. And I even have one of my good customers, well they're all good customers, but I have Gaz, you know, remember our dear friend Gaz, he's hopefully posting his copy through my letterbox this evening because I want to watch it. I'm desperate to watch it, but that's how thoughtful I am, in that I gave every copy away and didn't take one for myself. So hopefully Gaz will finish with his copy today, on my day off, the day that I'm shut, and hopefully I can sit back and watch this tonight, because I'm looking forward to it. Is this your horror film of the year? Is it? Let me know. We shall see. Looking forward to it. Don't know much about it either, because that's the trick these days, isn't it? That's the trick. It's the amount of publicity that comes out with so many films, like The Substance at the moment. It's trying to avoid all the spoilers and all the kind of plot bits and bobs that, you know, might have a negative impact on your first viewing of the film. So thankfully I managed to avoid everything about Longlegs. I don't know anything about it. Same with The Substance. So when I get around to watching that, I should hopefully avoid everything. So yeah, we'll see. But Longlegs, biggest film of the month so far. You know, I think it'll do well. Next up, another big movie. We have Maxine. Maxine is in. The third film in Ty West's trilogy that began with X and then went to Pearl, and now we have Maxine. Maxine looks absolutely fantastic. If it's anywhere near as good as the first two films, it should be brilliant. I mean, what a cast he's assembled for this. Obviously Mia Goth is back, but we have Michelle Monaghan, we have Bobby Cannavale, we have Lily Collins, we have Giancarlo Esposito, and we have Kevin Bacon as well. I mean, geez, unbelievable cast. Yorgos Lanthimos, his new film is out. I don't know much about this one. Certainly hasn't got the It's not riding the same crest of a wave that Poor Things did, but nevertheless, he's assembled a brilliant cast for this, and hopefully it should be match his usual quirky wit. I must admit, one of the British actors that I look out for in films is a guy called George Mackay. I think he's making some remarkable decisions with regard to films these days. His last film, which I've forgotten the name of, was it Unicorns? I think it was absolutely fantastic, where he befriends a transgender guy, which was just brilliant, just mesmerising. And this one looks equally fantastic. It's The Beast. Kind of a sci-fi, dominated by artificial intelligence. Eerily prescient, wouldn't you say? But this looks great. It's released this week by Vertigo Releasing, and it is only on Blu-ray. Some boutiques we have this week. One boutique / contemporary release we're missing right now is Starve Acre. That's the new folk horror, which stars Matt Smith, and is out from the BFI this week. Looking forward to that. Annoyed it hasn't come promptly, but hopefully it should be here by Friday. But with the boutiques, we have this, which looks really interesting to me. It's called Broken Oath. It's the latest from the Far East put out by Eureka, and it's a Hong Kong take on Japan's Lady Snowblood. I mean, Lady Snowblood still rents out a couple of times a year here. It's a brilliant pair of movies, and if this is anything near the quality of Lady Snowblood, then we should be in for a good time. So looking forward to watching that. BFI, that's the irony, they got the Oblong Box on time. Oblong Box is out from BFI, another Edgar Allan Poe film. This one was directed by Gordon Hessler. Vincent Price stars. It's an upgrade. I've had the DVD here for a number of years, but it's got a really pleasant batch of special features, which is cool. And finally, we have a new UHD. I've had the DVD breakdown for quite some time, because in my opinion it's one of the best thrillers of the 1990s, directed by Jonathan Mostow and starring Kurt Russell and the brilliant J.T. Walsh in what must be his best role. This is the UHD. Definite worthwhile upgrade for 20 quid, because you get the UHD and you get a Blu-ray as well. Excellent dual format, and it means I've now got 3 lovely copies of a very, very fine film, which, if you haven't discovered it yet, I suggest you make it a priority. Right, so they're the new releases out the way, so we can get on with Halloween now. I finished, thankfully, Sunday just gone, but we finished our 2 commentaries for 88 films. So although, what is it today, the 24th, Halloween's a week today, it was 8 days today, 23rd today. So commentaries are out the way now. I can focus on watching some good old horror films I haven't seen for a number of years in the build-up to Halloween. Very excited to do that. Past 2 nights I've been watching the new Criterion release of those 2 Val Lewton films, the Jack Turner film I Walked with a Zombie, and also Mark Robson's film, The Seventh Victim. Both were great. I do prefer I Walked with a Zombie a little bit more. Seventh Victim is great, but it's a little bit too melodrama without the necessary horror vibes, I reckon. But they're both fantastic, and that Criterion Blue has got some great documentaries on it, some great commentaries. So it was a really, really good release that I enjoyed poring over for 2 nights on the run. So yeah, we're going to break this down into 10 lots of 10. 10 lots of 10, all in different sections, themed sections, which hopefully might make some sense. The first section is a little bit of a palate cleanse, a bit of a warming up the room, that kind of thing, bit of a crowd warmer. It's literally just the 10 biggest renting horror films right now. So if you were to come into Snips today, these would be the 10 hottest horror films that everyone is renting, and as you'll see, most of them are out on loan right now. We have In a Violent Nature, which, to be honest, most people are liking. I know it's been kind of met with a Marmite reaction from most people, but most people here do seem to like it, which is cool. Talk to Me, it's been out a good while now, a good few months, but it's still renting like hell. Aussie film, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a really edgy, scary, different And yeah, I was quite terrified watching that. The First Omen is renting like mad. Again, this was something I'd expected nothing from, but it was very, very pleasing indeed. So a little bit of class in that. Imaginary, I'm yet to see, but it's renting like bonkers. And most people seem to be enjoying it, although we do like this kind of film, I think. Sting, another one I've not had time to see yet. I can't really get my hands on it. It's renting out all the time. But we do like a bit of a creature feature with a bit of a spider influence. I did see this, and I'm thrilled that it's renting out. We've got two World Cinema films here that are doing well. The first is Gun Jam Haunted Asylum. I know it's not really a contemporary release because it dates back to 2018, but it's the first we've seen of it over here in the UK. Blu-ray only edition from Second Sight Films, and it's renting really, really well. So I'm thrilled about that. And secondly, this is renting really well, and that is Sleep, the Korean film. And so far, to very good feedback from my customers, so it's really, really cool. Immaculate is certainly one of the better horror films this year, and it's doing very well indeed. And also, I had to do it. I had to import the Italian edition because there's no Blu-ray or DVD release here. It's The Last Voyage of Demeter, the great Bram Stoker themed vampire movie set on board the famous ship the Carpathia. It's good. It's good. I did like this a great deal. Some great special effects, some great tension, some great claustrophobia aboard that ship. I thought it was a very decent film. And finally, many people aren't too keen on the man. I quite like him. Eli Roth. His new film Thanksgiving is doing very well, and again, it's been met with a euphoric response by my customers. So they are the 10 biggest renting horror films at Snips at the moment. Right. What do we got next? 10 underrated horrors. Underrated horrors. See, this could go either way. What is an underrated horror? It's funny when you know when you do those clickbait articles and it's like, oh, 10 underrated films, and it's stuff like Halloween 3. Halloween 3 isn't an underrated horror. It just isn't. You know, it's mainstream practically. Underrated horrors are stuff that may be stuck on DVD, maybe things that literally have never been part of the conversation since they came out, and stuff that really should be on your agenda for Shocktober. And if they aren't, then perhaps this might give you some food for thought. I haven't checked with any of these films if they're streaming or what, so I think you'll find most of them are. So if you can't get to a video store, stupid point, but yeah, if you can't get to it, some of you may be able to. I know a lot of my customers do watch this, but if you can't get to a video store, then you may have the opportunity to rent them through various streaming platforms. Spits. So what do we got in our underrated horrors? First up, mentioned it before. I do like him as an actor. It's Bobby Cannavale. And Famke Janssen in 100 Feet. I like this film. It's edgy. It's tense. It's written and directed by Eric Red, who of course wrote The Hitcher. I just think it's a great horror film. And yeah, it's about a woman under house arrest who feels like she's haunted by her dead husband. How old is it? Yeah, it's 16 years old now. And I think it's a mighty fine film. So that's my first underrated horror for you. Second up, this one. I think this is up on Prime in the UK. It's directed by John Bolaski. And it's Black Cadillac. It was released on the Mosaic label over here in the UK. And it's Randy Quaid before he went crazy. It's great. It's a kind of dual type scenario, but in a teeny guys on the road kind of thing. I did like it a lot. I think it's held up very well. And a lot of people haven't seen this, and I think they should change that because I think it's a very good film. Next up, in the underrated horror, this is a sequel. And I know what you're going to say, you're going to mock me for this, but I don't care because I think it's the best, or one of the best sequels outside the first three. You'll understand when I pull it out. Where are we? There we go. Children of the Corn 5. Now, as sequels go, most of the Children of the Corn sequels aren't that great, apart from 2 and 3, which we did fine audio commentaries on for Arrow Video. But yeah, 4, 6 isn't bad, 7, 8, 9, not that great, but I like 5. I like 5. It's a little bit rock and roll compared to this. It's a little bit more, it's the Scream version of Children of the Corn. And I kind of like that. It's got a good cast. It's got Alexis, the late great Alexis Arquette. It's got Fred Williamson. You've got David Carradine. You've got Eva Mendes. I mean, Jesus. Amit Zappa. So, really great cast. Written and directed by Ethan Wiley, who I think wrote one of the House films, did he? Maybe the first House film. But yeah, Children of the Corn 5. If you're to watch any Children of the Corn film this season, which I know you're tempted, then make it number 5. Because it's... I'd love to see another. You know, we've had the 1, 2, 3 box set from Arrow. I think we should have the 4, 5, 6 box set of Children of the Corn now, because you know it's going to happen. Next up, it's not an out and out horror film. It's not an out and out horror film, but it's Frailty, and it's just fantastic. The late great Bill Paxton. I mean, wow, what an actor! And he directed this. It's got Matthew McConaughey in it, Powers Booth, the late great Powers Booth, and it's just good. It's a serial killer themed movie. Again, that kind of drifted under the radar. When you think this is 23 years old now, surely it's getting to the stage where we need a lip-smackingly wonderful boutique Blu-ray of this, because it's a wonderful, wonderful film. So that's another one of my underrated horrors for you. Are you still with me? Next up, we have Mr. Anthony Hickox. One of our favourites at Snips. This is a great favourite of Matty Budorevich. Made for HBO, I think it was, back in the day. Believe it or not, 30 years ago. And it's great. It's just vampires. And it's really, really clever. Mario Van Peebles, Patsy Kensit, Bruce Payne. I mean, you shouldn't need convincing based on this information, and written of course by Richard Christian Matheson. It's very, very good, and it's just one of those that's kind of fallen by the wayside and doesn't get the publicity that it should do. Next up, one of my favourite sci-fi, I'm not a sci-fi fan, but one of my favourite sci-fis is Cube, which is brilliant. Love it. Vincenzo Natali. Vincenzo has made some good films since then. Didn't he make Splice? I think that was one of his. But this is one of his that I think is relatively underrated. It's Abigail Breslin, and it's Haunter. Again, another situation, house-based thriller, supernatural kind of thing. David Hewlett, Peter McHattie. But to me, I think this is a very scary little film. And, you know, with that kind of artwork, it does blend into the background. It does become a little bit average with this generic artwork, and it's an easy one to pass by, but in my opinion I think it's very, very good. Next up is something that perhaps isn't that underrated, because it's quite well known. It's had a Blu-ray release, so you know, you must know all about it, but there may be some of you that don't, and you can't beat a good werewolf movie, and Late Phases is that. I think it's great. Nick D'Amici is just brilliant in this role. Absolutely fantastic. You've got Ethan Embry in this as well, the late great Lance Guest, Tom Noonan, and Dana Ashbrook as well. It's got a really good cast, and it's a werewolf film done right. You know, not cringy or, you know, too far-fetched. I don't mind too far-fetched if the mood fits. But with this, no, kind of It's perfect. It's perfect. What do we got next? Now this one, I haven't seen it for a while, I must admit, so my memory of it's spotty. But all I know is it was very, very good. It's Lovely Molly. Eduardo Sanchez, of course, directed the Blair Witch Project. He did a number of great films since then, stuff like The Objective, and I forgot the other one that he made. Substance, maybe? Probably not. But yeah, do like this a great deal. I just found it chilling. Just when it came out, I found it chilling. So, I mean, that was 10 years ago I last saw it. So whether it holds up or not, I don't know. But it just stood out to me last night when I was formulating these lists, and I thought, I'm going to mention this because it doesn't get taken out much, and it really should do, because I remember it being a very good film. Next, I mean, I love, as you can see by Black Cadillac, I love a dual-themed thriller. I love that kind of, you know, I'm mentioning a British one later that sits by the same theme. I just like that scenario, just that road-based two cars or a truck and a car or something like that. It makes me tense because we've all done it. We've all driven home at midnight from maybe a gig or something like that, and we've all looked at those headlights in our rearview mirror and thought, "Ooh," just as they approach behind us. And to me, it's perfect fodder for a horror film. And I think this is quite underrated. It's a rest stop. It was part of the Warner Brothers did a little direct-to-video label back in the early noughties called Raw Feed. Daniel Myrick from Blair Witch was involved, and I thought it was a great little label. A great little label. Didn't go very far, unfortunately. Only had a few releases, but Rest Stop was definitely the best. I think there was a sequel to it as well, if I remember rightly. That I don't think it's had a UK release, but I'll double check on that. But Rest Stop, I do like a great deal. And finally, with these 10 underrated, we have a creature feature. I do love a creature feature, and this is Splinter. I love the setting. Just that deserted gas station setting is brilliant, and just the effects. The effects are absolutely wonderful. I'm not sure who did them, but it's really good. It's a really good creature feature. It's short as well. I mean, minus credits, you're looking at an hour and 15 minutes, and it's just great fun. It's great fun. If you're programming a season, it's a type of movie you'd put on just past midnight just to give everybody a kick in the nuts. It's great. It's really good fun. So there we are. That is 10 underrated horror films. What's up next? We have 10 half-decent horrors not in the horror section. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Check that time. Oh, we're on schedule. With this, I kind of thought, the horror section is here, but it's difficult to expand it. As you can see, we're pretty much to capacity. So just behind this fixture, we have another big floor-to-ceiling fixture of my horror overflow, because I can't get rid of anything. Because just in case I can't get it back in. So I thought, well, what are 10 great horror films from back there that nobody sees, but I can recommend, so maybe people can write them down, put them on their list. So great. First up, let me pitch this one to you. Malcolm McDowell dates people. They don't live up to his exacting standards. So he murders them, eats them, then takes a dump and fertilizes his garden with their digested body parts. Come on, what are you waiting for? Yeah? Garden of Evil. Garden of Evil. What a film. Directed by James Hickox, Anthony's brother. It's just immense fun. Richard Grieco is in it, who allegedly was pissed every morning by 8 a.m, according to one of the crew members. According to one of the unnamed crew members. And it's just great fun. Malcolm McDowell never phones it in. brilliant performance, and it's just nutty, absolutely nutty, and deserves to be seen. Next up, one of my favourite interviews of all time was a guy called John Lechago. This is his first film, called Bloodno. It's truly perverted. It's got Julie Strain in it. Well, that should be enough, really, isn't it? It's bananas, and it features a little gnome on a mission of terror. Another gardening film, we have one by John Hayes called Garden of the Dead. It's not his best film. I'm a big John Hayes fan throughout his whole career, from his porn to his horror to his all kinds of stuff. But Garden of the Dead is kind of a great midnight movie, made for pennies, and it's got a really good commentary on here by Fred Olen Ray and David Okoto, so that makes it worth a look. This is a lot of fun. Robert Englund stars in Jack Bruck's Monster Slayer. Was this made for MTV or something like that? It may have been, maybe not. But it's immense fun. It's immense fun, and it is kind of, yeah. The cover makes it sound like a cross between Hellboy and The Evil Dead, and they're probably not far off. But it's immense fun. It's a great film. Bit of a cheat, this one. I do have this on Blu-ray. This is a film called, well, released by 101 over here as The Pit, but I've later got the Blu-ray in under its original title, which is Jugface. Jugface. Chad Crawford Kinkle directed it, and Arrow released his new film and included Jugface as a bonus disc on Blu-ray. But it's great. It's just a really good backwards horror that deserves to be seen. Another great creature feature that I have to recommend: Dean Stockwell, John Savage. Need I say any more? It's great. A small town horror. I love small town horrors. They're so cool. Now, I haven't seen this for a while, I must admit, but it just caught my eye when I was looking through the backstash yesterday. Again, it kind of fits with They Nest as a backwards horror. It earned its 18 certificate and just kind of vanished. I think this even got a cinema release. I'm sure it got a cinema release. But it didn't do too. But I mean, look at that. You got a director's commentary, you got a cast and director commentary, you got a making of documentary. This was when DVDs used to mean something. 2007. Again, this is skirting the horror arena. It's VFW. VFW, directed by Joe Begos. You got an amazing cast: Stephen Lang, William Sadler, Martin Coe, Fred Williamson. And it's just a team of military buddies who must defend their local VFW post against a deranged drug dealer. It's kind of a assault on Precinct 13 with old guys. It's good fun. It's good fun. Slasher. Haven't had a slasher so far. It's not the best, but it's worth a look if you set your expectations low. Ron Silver is in this. Ron Silver. It's the Wisher. It's a cool mask. And again, it was released by Mosaic in the UK, who very rarely released anything that was subpar. So yeah, I've got quite a fondness for that. I love the cover art of it, and I do think it should have been a little bit bigger than it was. But there we go. And finally, in the half-decent horrors not in the horror section, we have Zombies, aka Wicked Little Things. It was the final film directed by my good mate Joe Cardone, and it's good. It's typical Eastern European set horror film. Child zombies, child zombies, can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. So that is 10 half-decent horrors not in the horror section. I hope you've made a note of those. Let's see what's next. Okie dokie. We're cooking on gas. Let's have some fuel. 10 must-see world cinema horrors. Now, this could be easy. You could say, well, world cinema horrors, easy. You got The Ring, The Grudge, all kinds of stuff. Loads. But no, I'm not going to go with the obvious choices. I'm not going to go on one missed call. I'm not going to go with the obvious choices. Going to go for 10 must-see world cinema horrors that perhaps you haven't seen. So first up, one from Belgium. It's a film called Left Bank. Left Bank. This is pretty cool. Quite a shocker. Quite a shocker. But it's a good film. It's a good film. Quite sexual in nature as well. So beware. But yeah, set in Antwerp, I think it was. And it was by a short, came out in the UK from a short-lived label called Exposure Cinema, which sadly aren't no more. So I don't know if this is easily available or not. I would imagine not. But yeah, quite fond of that. Left Bank. Next up, we have, well, it's one, but it's two. Anatomy. I thought it was a great German film. Very cool. I love anything to do with morgues and body parts and dissection and stuff like that. It grosses me out no end. So Anatomy is certainly one of my picks, and I love the cover. I think it's a great cover, and I would certainly recommend its underrated sequel, Anatomy 2, which I've only seen once, and I can't remember much about it, so I'm going to have to rent that one again. But interestingly, it spelt it differently as well from the first film. But yeah, that's one from Germany that I do heartily recommend. I was going to say this is my Christmas show, but I'm going to mention it now. It is Dick Maas and Saint, or Sint, as it's called over in Holland. It's a great Christmas film. I'll mention it again in a few weeks at Christmas time, but it is one of my perennial watchers in the season to be. Well, sometimes I'll watch it at Halloween, sometimes I'll watch it in December, but it's great. It's gory, it's wonderful, it's completely everything that Christmas isn't. And it's fantastic. So it's Sint from Dick Maas. Missed one from Germany. Now this is a little one that bypassed everybody. Again, I've got various fetishes when it comes to horror. One of those is icebound horror films like The Thing, obviously, Larry Fessender's Wendigo. Films like that, they really do float my boat. This is another one. It's called The Station. Originally, I think, but over here it's called Blood Glacier. And it's just an Alpine research station, and weird things are going on. Lots of monsters. Blood Glacier. Next up, we have, just pure gore. Pure gore, nothing else. Not the best film in the world. Adam Chaplin from Italy. Not the best film in the world, but if you want some just pure gore and splatter, then this is your thing. Adam Chaplin. Heartily recommended for a non-thinking horror film. From Norway, I am part Norwegian, so I do like to throw in a bit of Norway from time to time. We have Fritz Wild, Cold Prey. Great fun. Another one set in that beautiful icebound landscape, claustrophobic isolation, all those wonderful things. And if you rent it, you even get God, imagine getting Coldplay. Jesus, should never come back again. Cold Prey Resurrection as a bonus feature. Very cool indeed. Sorry if I like Coldplay. No, I'm not. What do we got after Coldplay? Cold Prey. Jesus, got Chris Martin on my mind. Strigoi from Romania. Strigoi is a beautiful vampire movie that defies categorization. It's got a little bit of we're in the shadows thingy, the film. Got a little bit of that, but from a very Eastern European point of view. But it's very good fun, and it's very funny. It's very funny. I haven't had much comedy in here, but it's dark, it's funny, and it's excellent, and it's very Romanian. If you're after something very Romanian. What's up next? Atrocious. Now, I looked through Spain. I wasn't sure what to pluck out from Spain. There's a few different things, so I've gone for two altogether. The first one is... well, that's not it. Let's put that back. The first one is called Atrocious. Again, I make no apologies. I like found footage movies. And this is one. This is one. It's called Atrocious. And it's just the final 5 days of a family in a farmhouse in Sitges. And it's very good. I like found footage. And I think this is a decent effort. So that is Atrocious. Well, it's not atrocious. It's very good. It's called Atrocious. You know what I mean. Let me straighten this up. Another also from Spain. Now this is at the opposite end of the scale. This is class. This is just a classy horror film. We have The Body. The Body from the producers of The Orphanage and Julia's Eyes. Yeah, just a classy horror film that's soaked in atmosphere. Very, very good. And heartily recommended, or at least by Kaleidoscope in this country about 10 years ago. And it is a fair renter, to be honest, so that's pretty cool. Trace the Body. And yeah, the last one I got from Uruguay. You may know this one because it's been remade for the American market under the same title, which is Silent House. I liked it because it's a one-take film. You know, I could have pulled out one cut of the Dead today, couldn't I? That's a good horror film, and it's a fantastic horror film. But you kind of know about that. But do you know about Silent House? Another one-take horror film, real time, and it's just very good. And you don't get many good horror films from Uruguay, as far as I know. So that is that. That is 10 must-see world cinema horrors. What's that? 40 down. 60 to go. Cool. Let's move on. Okay, you know about most of these. Check the time. We're on time. Just about. Ish. You know about most of these, so I'm going to go through them quite quickly. These are, I mentioned the other week or quite recently that when people browse Vinegar Syndrome, they feel a sense of overwhelming sort of, they don't know where to go, which is understandable because Vinegar Syndrome is overwhelming. You've got a couple of hundred films there. They're not well-known films. They're all brilliantly curated, but you know, maybe a helping hand might be needed to point people in the right direction of what to go for. So if I was browsing the Vinegar Syndrome section here, these are the 10 horror films that would be first on my list. We have 10 essential horrors from Vinegar Syndrome. First up, The Black Room. We've been waiting for this for ages, haven't we? Just a wonderful, wonderful film. Great director. Co-directed by Norman Thaddeus Vane, of course. And it's just a unique film. Again, there's a vampire tale there, but it's subtle. And again, it's one of those horror films that we've been waiting for years and years and years, and finally we have it, and hopefully lots of people can discover it. It's very good indeed. Next up, I was talking to someone recently about, I think it was Kai. I think Kai rented this, The Cellar, and it's very good. Kevin S. Tenney. I think Kevin S. Tenney is a very underrated horror movie director. You know, Witchboard, etc., etc. And The Cellar is certainly one of his best, but not a great renter. It should be, because it's immense fun. But this was a troubled production, of which you can learn about it all on the Vinegar Syndrome disc. Fade to Black. Genius. We love anything with a kind of theatrical cinematic location, and yeah, it's just great, and a great lead role as well by Dennis Christopher. Fantastic. The Fear is I hate the term, I'm going to use it once and once only, guilty pleasure. Fear isn't the best horror film by any means, but I just love that character. I love that wooden thing, because it's such a a weird creation, such a weird villain. And he's great. Just a creaky, creosote-covered beast. Morty, great villain. And the Fear too. I'll give you that as well, just for punishment. Again, another one. It's not the greatest horror film ever made, but I really enjoy it. Flesh Eater from Bill Hinsman. I love the low budget nature of it. I love the gore. I love the fact that when it was released in the UK they called it Zombie Nosh. If you're not from the UK, Google Nosh. But yeah, I like this a lot, and as you know, I do a lot of work with Matthew Bedrevich, and this is probably the one film that he would destroy every copy of in the universe, if he could, because he despises it. It's frequently a bone of contention. This was a great surprise this year. I hadn't seen this before it came out on Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome, and I loved it to pieces. I thought it was great. I love stuff like that. I love stuff with little indie horror films. This one was from Michigan. I love indie horror films with brilliant practical effects, and this is one such film. Again, not the coolest horror film, but I love this. When I was growing up as a kid, when I was in my 20s, and this came out, 19, I thought it was great. I thought it was the most hysterical thing. Directed by Michael Cooney, who of course was a British playwright, weirdly, wrote the god-awful thing, Run From Your Wife, that Danny Dyer did. Jesus. So a bizarre segue in his career to go to America and make this horror film. But it's brilliantly fun. It's just brilliantly fun. It never gets old. I'm happy to watch that at any point. Even the sequel, Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. Don Dola is such a low budget hero. The way he put films together with no money. He made this for $14,000. Night Beast is brilliantly entertaining, and if you like low budget horror, then this is certainly something that you should check out. It's great fun. Ticks, weirdly enough, Ticks was announced in the UK yesterday, because Screenbound, one of the most backwoods, behind the times labels in operation in the UK, have suddenly out of the blue decided to resurrect their boutique Blu-ray credentials. So they've announced Ticks, they've announced Blood Delirium, and they've announced Charlie One Eye on Blu-ray with Obi strips. So hey, they're trendy. But yeah, Ticks is one of them, and Ticks is just a genius film directed by Tony Randell and starring Clint Howard. It's brilliant. The effects in that are fantastic. And finally, The Undertaker, Joe Spinell, one of the great character actors of all time. He's such a brilliant actor. And if any film that Joe Spinell was in, he was amazing. And Undertaker, it's late in his career. He doesn't look that hot in that movie, but it's a great performance. And he's a great actor. And yeah, so they're the 10 essential horrors that you should check out from Vinegar Syndrome. Halfway there. Okay, next up, 10 low budget horrors worth checking out. Define low budget. No, I just guessed. But they are all relatively low budget. They're not studio films, they're all independent films, and they're all pretty cool. First up, I love this. Saw it when it came out. It is very, very low budget. It's directed by oh no, I don't know who it's directed by, because the company that made this, a company called Three Wolves, have printed the wrong credits on the box. I think they've printed the credits for Barbie or something on here. But yeah, they're a terrible company, always making mistakes on the artwork. But I love it. I think it's a great movie. Empty Rooms. In fact, I think it's the guy that made Nailbiter. I'm sure it's Patrick Ray. I'm sure Patrick Ray directed that. But anyway, it's a really cool little ghosty movie that's really effective, and it's, none of you will have watched this. If any of you have watched this, tell me, because I'd like to know. Because I think it's just one of those films that just completely disappeared once it got released. But I love that film. I've kept it, even with all the horror editions over the years. I've just kept that there because I can't remove it. I keep on meaning to recommend it to more people, but I don't. Next up we have Unrest. This was part of the After Dark horror films that came out in the mid-noughties, 2006. And this I really like, directed by Jason Todd Ibsen. It's got a really cool performance by Derek O'Connor. And again, it taps into my morgue fetish because it's set in the morgue. And it's great. I found it really effective, really low budget, but it's good. It's good. Next up, I Didn't Come Here to Die, which I must admit I haven't seen for quite some time. But it's a great debut. It's a great debut. And it's one of those kind of bit of a time loop kind of thing going on. But it's very good, very effective. And it was released originally by Second Sight, when they just used to release horror films on DVD and didn't used to release outrageous £50 box sets. Oh, sorry. But yeah, I do recommend that one. The Revenant. Oh, that's good fun, isn't it? It's out on loan at the moment. But just it's funny. It's so funny. You kind of get bored of some zombie films, you know, because of the trends that we move in with horror. Sometimes you get oversaturation with certain themes, and zombies have frequently been one of those. But The Revenant is just immense fun. Mr. Andrew Grinnell has this out at the moment, and I hope he enjoyed it, and I hope his wife enjoyed it as well. Next up is the Ugly. Yeah, that's an interesting one. This did get a Blu-ray release, I think, from somewhere from maybe Australian Blu-ray release, because it's an Australian film. Maybe Umbrella released it. But it's grisly. It's just a grisly film. Serial killer vibes and gnarly, just really gnarly. But it's good, and I think the artwork is so iconic. I do love that. But it's great. Good low budget film. Let me try and not knock out the microphone here. Oh, getting attacked. Next up we have, well, it's called Zombie Transfusion here, but it was originally called Automaton Transfusion. Directed by Stephen C. Miller, underrated horror director. This was one of his first films. Again, a zombie film, but there's something about it. There's something about it that's original. There's something about it that's ambitious. You know, it's short, mercifully, 17 minutes, and I just thought it was pretty cool. So, that's Automaton Transfusion. Next up, we have... this is so grisly. This is Thanatomorphose. Just one of the most disgusting films you'll ever see. Very Cronenbergian. As it says, a strange and claustrophobic tale of sexuality, horror, and bodily fluids. It's gross. Do not eat your food when you're watching that film. It is grim, but it's essential viewing. It's an amazing film. This went out recently. Again, I don't get the thing they have in America where they have all these houses of Halloween, these kind of attractions that you can go to. Never really understood that, but it's great to watch. And this is effective. Bobby Roode directed this. And it is just a really effective film based in those scenarios, underground scenarios. They did a sequel called Houses of Halloween 2. No, The Houses October Built was the original American title. So the sequel was The Houses October Built 2. For some reason in the UK they called it Blue Skeleton, which was just bizarre. But that's here as well, which is cool. 2 to go. Even Lambs Have Teeth, which is a excellent kind of rape revenge film with an element of dark comedy about it. Great stuff. Released in the UK by Matchbox, which had a really good eye. Who had a really good eye for releasing very good horror films. Another badge of honour for those people browsing CEX and places like that. If you ever see a film released by Matchbox Films, seal of approval. Very good indeed. But yeah, that's good. Doesn't rent out much. Should do. Finally, The Dead Room. This is a brilliant film from New Zealand, I think it was. For me, I found this terrifying. I've recommended it to a few people since. They haven't really liked it. But I think this is fantastic. It scares me to death. I really do think it's brilliant and underrated. It's called The Dead Room. I love the three characters in it. I think they're the most well-rounded, normal characters to appear in a horror film. And yeah, it's one of my favourites. It's a regular renter from me. Big fan. So yeah, that is section 6. 10 low-budget horror films worth checking out. Okay. Bit contentious this. 10 underrated horrors by great directors. So these are kind of tentpole box office directors, and these are 10 horrors that they've made that maybe aren't considered as highly as the other work. It was just an opportunity to hold up 10 more horror films. It really was. So don't hold me on that. What do we got? We have Argento's Sleep. I've heard two things in the last 2 days about Opera being Argento's last good horror film. What is it with people? I don't understand that. Do they not watch like Stendhal Syndrome? Do they not watch Sleepless? I think Sleepless is wonderful, really underrated. Max von Sydow, brilliant, and yeah, that's my pick for the first one here. Body Snatchers by Abel Ferrara, doing a commentary with Matthew Bedrovich on Sunday, and he holds this up very, very highly indeed, on a par with the first two movies by the same name, and I'd agree, it is a very good film. Wes Craven did many good films, but Red Eye doesn't get talked about as much really, but it's fantastic. It's brilliant. Cillian Murphy is superb. One of Friedkin's best, Bug. Thankfully it really does rent out quite well here, but we need a lavish Blu-ray of that, we really do. Tenuous, probably not classed as a horror film, but to me, I do think it's a horror film because it scares me. I think Robert De Niro is fantastic in this film. I think it's one of Tony Scott's best. The Fan, I think it's a horror film because it is tense and it is a little bit terrifying. So yeah, that's a tenuous pick, but I'm going to pick it anyway. I mentioned this one on the show last week. It was Tusk by Kevin Smith. Great, underrated, needs to be seen by a lot more people. One from Polanski. Not a great fan of Johnny Depp, but here we are. I do think this is a decent film. It's quite underrated, very atmospheric. John Carpenter. I mean, what can be underrated about any of John Carpenter's films? Maybe In the Mouth of Madness is. We do need a UK Blu-ray of that. Toby Hooper. So many great films, but Spontaneous Combustion needs to be seen by many more people because it is just really good, and it gets better with it every year. It matures like a fine wine. And finally, in underrated horrors by great directors, Diary of the Dead. We all love the Romero's Dead films. They're all great apart from maybe Land of the Dead, which is like Father Ted of the Dead. But Diary of the Dead doesn't really get much rep, but I think it deserves it. Because he's trying to do something different. I think he succeeds. So yeah, that is my pick of 10 underrated horror films by great directors. Number 7, what's next? Okay, nearly done. Stay with me, about 21 minutes. Should be done then. It's an endurance test, isn't it? Let's have a look. 10 recommendable post-millennium British horrors. Just below the camera level here we have our British post-millennium horror section. So many great films. I'm going to pick 10 from here that I think are certainly worth a look. I know when people sort of crouch down and look at this section, they don't know what to go for because a lot of stuff there that just isn't familiar. but these are 10 that are really cool. Another zombie film, this one's set in Yorkshire, made by Dominic Brunt of the soap Emmerdale. Before Dawn is very, very good fun. It's an excellent, hard-hitting British zombie film, and it deserves to be seen. This one is amazing. The Casebook of Eddie Brewer. I think it's one of the great, underrated, eerie British films of all time. It's so good, made for pennies. I don't think it had a mainstream release in any way. I know I had to buy this from the website of the film company. So where it is now, I do not know, and that was about 10 years ago. So who knows where this is, but I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. So that is The Casebook of Eddie Brewer. This is cool. This is like a play, The Devil's Business. It's really short, less than 70 minutes, and it's about two hitmen. So two hitmen and a horror kind of doesn't really gel together, but this does. It's brilliant. It's made by Sean Hogan, and I think it's a very clever film. Like I said, it could be a play, but it works for me very well indeed. Certainly one of the great underrated British directors of all time is Philip Ridley, who made, of course, The Reflecting Skin and The Passion of Darkly Noon, which EIV are holding on to and not letting anybody put on Blu-ray. But Heartless is one of his finest. It's very, very good. Great cast: Jim Sturgis, Eddie Marsan, Timothy Spall. It's a great sort of Faustian tale that is well worth looking at. Hush is, again, like I said before, those Steven Spielberg's dual style horror movies really are up my street. This is on the M1, brings it right back home to Britain. It's good fun. Next up, I have a bit of a portmanteau. Little Deaths, with chapters written by and directed by Sean Hogan, who of course did Devil's Business, Andrew Parkinson, and Simon Rumley, who did the brilliant Red, White and Blue, which I haven't mentioned today, but that's fantastic. So yeah, it's a threesome, all excellent chapters, and it was released by Monster Picks back in the day. But yeah, Little Deaths is well worth. Oh look, this is a little bit mainstream. This next one is called Long Time Dead. Haven't had a Ouija board film here yet today, have we? But this is great. They always phone up, don't they? Oh, they hung up. That's the second one. 33 episodes, 2 phone calls. Nightmare. But yeah, Long Time Dead. This did do well when it came out. I think it had a cinema release. I think it had a broad home video release. But since then, it's kind of drifted into obscurity. Unfairly so, I think. Salvage. I do believe that this is filmed on the sets of the old Brookside TV series. So that's probably the only reason that I included it, because it's quite a local themed horror film. But what I remember, I thought it was a pretty cool horror film, because it's kind of, the focal point is it's a terrorist attack, but is it a terrorist attack, or is it something far more sinister? Interesting. Tony is a great film about a serial killer. It's disturbing, but it's kind of just a character study about a really well written character, and it's good. It deserves your attention. That's Tony. And finally, we have White Settlers, directed by Simeon Halligan. I do like this a great deal. Pollyanna McIntosh, of course, is in The Woman. And yeah, it's that setting, it's that isolation in a Scottish farmhouse that does it for me. And it was a very effective horror that is now celebrating its 10-year anniversary. So you should have seen it by now, yeah? Okay, there we go. There is 10 recommendable post-millennium British horrors. We have 2 to go. We're running over. So let's move on to our final 2 sections. Okay, could couldn't not cover these. Couldn't not cover these. So here is 10 black and white horror films. 10 black and white horror films, and this could have been easy. You know, I could have chosen Dracula, could have chosen Frankenstein, could have chosen Bride of Frankenstein, could have chosen The Wolfman. That's too boring. So I have chosen one Universal horror, but some of these maybe might not have been first on your list. So what do we got? We have Carnival of Souls. Just brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. Just, you know, we all talk about atmosphere in horror films, but this is the embodiment of atmosphere. Out on Criterion. Another one out on Criterion, doesn't need any introduction, is David Lynch's Eraserhead. A work of genius. Next up, again, needs no introduction, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Brilliant, another Criterion release. A couple from Warner Archive, which maybe you haven't seen before. Stuff like Dr. X, which is very impressive, directed by Michael Curtis. And The Devil Doll, directed by Todd Browning, who of course directed Freaks. One, especially with a new film coming out, you should really see, which is Nosferatu, the 1922 original, directed by F.W. Murnau. And of course we have The Island of Lost Souls, the precursor for The Island of Dr. Moreau, the first adaptation of H.G. Wells's spectacular novel. So that is that. The Old Dark House is, I mean, yes, the James Whale film that you should have said is Bride of Frankenstein, but if you want another great James Whale film, then The Old Dark House is just absolutely fantastic. 1932. I don't know if this is still available, this Masters of Cinema Blu-ray release, but I hope so, because this is an essential movie. And yeah, my one Universal horror pick is The Invisible Man. We did a great little booklet, or big booklet, for 88 Films Hollow Man release a number of years back, and I watched all the Invisible Man films back to back, and they're just so good. They're just so good. But the original film is just it's immense. It's absolutely fantastic. One of my favourite films. So The Invisible Man is essential, and a modern day one ish. Abel Ferrara, The Addiction, an excellent black and white horror movie that's just superb. There we go, 90 films. Okay, final section. So yeah, I've labelled this kind of 10 films that have no right to be here. And these are 10 films that have no right to be here. Are they very? They're not very good. They're quite awful, some of them. But I don't know what it is. Just can't get rid of them. Just feel compelled to keep them, because I might have the urge to watch them one day. I don't know why that is. But still, here we are. So first up we have 3 rabbit-based movies. 3 rabbit-based horror movies. Don't ask. Maybe it's a fetish. I don't know. So we have The Beaster Bunny. The Beaster Bunny, which is directed by Zachary Snigg. Zachary Snigg you may know under his alter ego, which is John Bacchus, who made those great films, Erotic Witch Project, Gladiator, Eroticus, etc., etc. And this is his horror movie, The Beaster Bunny. This is better than the other ones in this pile. Next up we have The Bunnyman Massacre, which it's just not great. It's just not great. I can't believe 101 put stuff like this out back in the day. I've even got the sequel, which is Bunnyman Resurrection. So bizarre. And stuff like this used to sell. But yeah, I've kept it for some reason. So, you know, I don't know what reason that would be. Next up we have Easter Bunny Kill Kill. Now this isn't bad, to be honest. This is directed by Chad Ferrin, who I do like a great deal. He's made so many really decent films. So yeah, maybe this shouldn't be in this pile, but because we're on a bunny trip, I thought that as a third bunny film I should mention that one. Now this is the Clowntergeist. Just no. Just no. This is on DVD, but it's one of those films that just appears on Tubi. Just crops up, one of the really low budget horror films that just appears on Tubi, and it's just not that great. Because of course anything with a clown in the title gets hits, gets streams, gets units sold for some reason. I don't know why. So there's Clowntergeist, terrible film. Demon Cop, awful film. It even says on the cover, probably the worst film you'll ever see. It is a shocker. Cameron Mitchell stars in this, although he probably doesn't know he's in this. And yeah, it's just a terrible, terrible film. No redeeming features. And the same can be said for this, which is probably the worst film I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, bar none. This is the worst film I've ever seen in my entire life. It is El Dorado. It's directed by Richard Driscoll, Jailbird Richard Driscoll. If you want to know more, let me know. I will tell you. It's just awful. It's just a horror musical spin on the Blues Brothers, with Peter O'Toole, Daryl Hannah, Michael Madsen, Steve Guttenberg, Bridget Nielsen, Rick Mayall, Jeff Fahey, Sylvester McCoy, Bill Moseley, Patrick Bergin, Robert Llewellyn, Caroline Munro, and David Cameron. David Cameron? That would be freaky. David Carradine. And most of these people have no idea that they've ever appeared in this movie. Richard Driscoll is a character. And this is just one of the worst films you will ever see in your entire life. It's just so bad. It's just so bad. I'm not sure if it's available anywhere. I hope it isn't. I hope every copy of it is destroyed forever, because no one deserves to be put through this film. It's just a shocker. But yeah, that is, again, but I can't get rid of it for some reason, because maybe one day I might need it. I shouldn't have put this here, I suppose. It's a Jim Wynorski film. In the UK it was called Ghost Trick 2, Legend of the Sea Ghost. But I think it's called The Thing Below in most other territories. It's not bad, but the Ghost Rig films in general aren't that great. Why this got labelled with the second as the second film, I do not know, but it's alright. It's alright, but it's not great. Hellraiser, I don't know why I have a copy. I have 2 copies of this, because it's the one and only film that James and Richard from 88 Films have made. Produced from scratch, directed by Steve Lawson. It's even got a quote on the cover that says, "British horror is alive and well," says Dave Wain. Terrible quote. I didn't even watch the film when I said that. It's not the greatest film, but I don't even think 88 made any money off it. But still, there we go. Hellraiser. Now we have the Midnight Horror Collection, which is Scarecrow, Scarecrow Slayer, and Scarecrow Gone Wild. I seem to think these were brilliant back in the day, and while I watched them recently, I realised how awful they were. But still, I feel compelled to keep hold of them, because I just love a good Scarecrow movie. I love a good Scarecrow movie. These aren't them, but still, yeah, can't get rid of. And finally, we have one of those horrible Krampus knockoffs. Krampus, of course, the original film was great, but then, any success for any film suddenly seems to spawn a whole load of similarly titled films that have no relation whatsoever. Robert Conway made 2. This is 1. Krampus: The Reckoning. It's not very good at all, but yet here it is in the video store, and it's staying here for some mad masochistic reason. So there we go. 100 horror films. Some you shouldn't watch, some you should watch, most you should watch. And I hope this has been some use to you in general. Let me know if it has. Let me know if there's anything I should have mentioned, or let me know what you think, what your underrated horror films are. And yeah, just feedback in the comments below with any feedback to this show, and whether you think it was worth your while spending, an hour and 10 minutes, jeez. Longest one today. Anyway, hope I haven't bored you. Back to business next week with a big What's in the Box and some new releases and some great boutiques and some on loans as well. So hopefully you're inspired to watch loads of horror films now for the next week or so. Let me know what you're seeing. I'm going home now, where I'll hopefully find that Gaz has dropped his copy of Longlegs through my letterbox so I can watch it tonight, because I'm really looking forward to that. And And yeah, that's about it. So thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with me in this endurance test of an episode. This has been Inside the Video Store. And as usual, I will see you in 7 days' time.